Who doesn't love a moody teen tragedy set in the hot, hot summer of 1985? If you love motorcycles and boys who love motorcycles, it's time to fall head over heels for Bobby. Happy summertime, fam! I'm Mecha-May. This is my engineer, Mew-Bot 5000, and today I'm going to talk about a little sane Japanese cartoon called Bobby ni Kubittake, or Head Over Heels for Bobby, aka Bobby's in Deep, aka Bobby's Girl, aka Bobby's Neck, aka Bobby's World. This is a featurette from 1985 based on the 1980 story by Yoshio Kataoka. This was the first and also the last anime adaptation of one of his stories, though Toei did make live-action films based on some of his other books. It's a weird choice for an animated adaptation because it's largely about the interior life of a kid named Akihiko, who's called Bobby by literally everyone except his father. The weirder choice was making this a double feature with Rintaro's much, much longer film Dagger of Kamui, and that's what they did. But unlike Dagger of Kamui, Bobby's in Deep doesn't take place in California, though it does have a lot of American West Coast SoCal vibes. What it doesn't have, though, is Mark Twain. But I digress. A popular heartthrob of the time, Hironobu Nomura plays the titular Bobby. Plus, he sings some of the very 1980s songs featured in MTV music video fashion throughout the film. The author, Kataoka, had a father who was half American and only spoke English at home, so that may be part of what inspired the anime studio Madhouse to give the visuals a punchy pop art feel that suggests a West Coast American milieu. Anyway, as I was saying, this film is about a boy nicknamed Mark Twain. No, wait, a boy nicknamed Bobby, and he has one interest and one interest only, and that's motorcycles. Out of the blue one day in June, his nosy little sister Keiko points out that he's got a letter, and not just any letter, a letter from a girl. A total stranger named Sakumi saw some photos he'd sent into a motorcycle magazine. Not that type of motorcycle magazine. The boring type, where wholesome boys like Bobby can send in fully clothed pictures of himself and his friends on a road trip. Sakumi saw Bobby's wholesome photos and felt moved to write to him, out of curiosity about him, his bike, and the freedom he seems to have. Bobby is so overwhelmed to get a letter from a girl, he immediately pours out his heart in a return missive. Too bad the contents of his heart contains about 2 complete sentences. Well, 3. One day, riding around with what appears to be his only friend, Sachio, Bobby finds a diner that literally calls out his name. They go in and discover it's a popular biker hangout. Not that kind of biker hangout. The wholesome kind, with lots of motorcycle memorabilia and refreshing mixed drinks. At home, Bobby argues with his father, who expects him to graduate high school and go to college. Bobby, apparently not realizing that Japanese college life in the 1980s is non-stop partying and slacking before the inevitable slide into becoming an overworked salaryman, wants to cut out the middleman and go straight into getting a job. Since Richard Linklater hadn't yet started to make movies about people like Bobby, he's left to poorly explain his point of view to his almost faceless, fed-up father. Bobby talks the owner of the biker diner into hiring him for odd jobs, despite the fact that school hasn't let out yet for the summer. He also writes a letter back to Sakumi, who remains faceless throughout, and tells her about his plans to ditch school to work at the diner. I guess when you're that young, it seems like a hassle to stick it out for a month, which would have been the amount of time he had left in the school year. Of course, his parents find out he hadn't been going to school, which leads to a big argument where Bobby's dad hits him, causing Bobby to leave home and little sister Keiko to start mentally planning how she'll arrange things when she moves into his bedroom. After a time-stretching song performed by Hironobu Nomura himself, Bobby moves in with Sachio and his cat. Bobby doesn't seem too upset about leaving home, but like most teenagers, he thinks he invented getting mad at your parents and running away. All the same, he adjusts to his new grown-up life quickly, because he loves his job and he also seems to love his boss, or at least has a very one-sided boy crush on him. One day, Keiko visits him at work to give him a new letter from Sakumi. Sakumi tells him she's feeling sad and lonely, leaving Bobby at a loss as to how to respond to her, since he isn't much of a writer. He isn't much of a talker either, but still, he gives her the number of his apartment and tells her to call him because he doesn't know how to respond to her in a letter. Soon, Sachio goes to rejoin his parents in Hokkaido, leaving Bobby with the apartment and the cat. He gets a letter from Sakumi, apologizing for being weird and saying she'll phone him on her birthday, August 10th. On that very day, Bobby's cool boss invites him on a motorcycle trip, where they ride to the beach while the most romantic song of the video plays. I'm pretty sure all the love songs in this feature are directed at the motorcycle anyway. They go to a beach house his boss owns, where his Bobby's Cafe branded motocross team practices. Bobby didn't even know there was a motocross team, but the boss invites him to join and Bobby happily accepts. Things are looking up. His cool boss wants him on the motocross team, which already seems huge, and oh yeah, a girl is gonna phone him at 6 p.m. sharp. Bobby gets back on the highway and hurries towards home, inasmuch as this kid can hurry anywhere. This is surely gonna be the best day of his life. Time for another musical montage. This thing has a paper-thin plot and has to stretch out to 45 minutes. Oh, sorry, 44 minutes. Anyway, Bobby gets stuck in traffic, as one does, so he takes a back road detour, and as he speeds down that country road he goes so fast he warps right into the Take On Me video. The story has been pretty low stakes up to this point, so now there's palpable tension as we wait for Bobby to get home so he can answer the phone and talk to poor lonely Sakumi, who you have to figure is kind of a weirdo, right? I mean, she wrote to a total stranger because he had some photos in a motorcycle mag, and she doesn't even ride a motorcycle. So, it's doubly imperative that the poor weird girl isn't disappointed. The carefree summer vibes of Bobby's life come to a sudden end when some idiot backs into the road in front of him with an open hatchback, sending Bobby flying off into infinity. At his apartment, the phone rings, and the classic 1960s song Bobby's Girl ushers forth, signaling the end. Fun fact, the song Bobby's Girl was titled Bobby ni Kubittake, or roughly, Head Over Heels for Bobby, when it was introduced to Japan. When he was writing the story this cartoon was based on, Kataoka couldn't think of a title, but the song was stuck in his head. Using some quick thinking, he gave his main character the nickname Bobby, and voila, instant title. Aspiring authors, make those annoying earworms work with you. This is an interesting little featurette with simple but arty animation that helps to dress up the talkie scenes and also provides us with a glimpse inside Bobby's mind. Of course, it's Madhouse, so it looks great. It's more of a mood piece than anything, and even out in the far reaches of outer space, I can feel the bright summer sun of the mid-1980s. It's set in Tokyo, but the art design has real Southern California spirit, with interludes featuring illustrations by the film's director, Toshio Hirata, the character designer, Akemi Yoshida, and the animation director, Manabu Ohashi, each using different media that all come together to create a vivid snapshot of a very specific time. Why such a bummer ending, though? Maybe it was meant as a metaphor, warning the youth of Japan that sure, everything seems sunny right now, but one day the bubble will burst and that terrible yellow hatchback called the recession will back into the road in front of you, so don't get too cocky. I recommend this featurette as a thoughtful little summer cocktail if you're into 80s aesthetics and extremely mid-80s pop tunes. A lot of people seem put off by Bobby's voice, as he's played by an idol who isn't really a voice actor. But Bobby himself seems so taciturn and internally driven, I don't feel like it matters. His voice seemed perfectly natural and normal to me. Keep in mind, I'm a robot. You can find subtitled versions of the anime here on YouTube, so give it a watch if the totally 80s aesthetic is your kind of thing. That's all we have for now, but we'll be back soon to talk about more cartoons, so y'all come back now, you hear?